Election night 2016. Live on Joe Rogan's stream in front of millions, Bill Burr looked across the table at the most testosterone-filled man in podcasting and decided to end him. Not over politics, not over anything serious, over a hat, and Rogan never recovered.
Protein. You had to beat the fuck out of people for like 3 decades before you could like chill, smoke a little weed, put on your Little Rascals hat, and just fucking chill out.
Here are 10 of the most disrespectful Bill Burr moments. Let's start with a man who built an entire career on being the smartest guy in the room, Bill Maher. Decades of late-night monologues, panel debates, that smug little half-smile he does when he thinks he's just won the conversation. Maher is a man who has spent 30 years being the one who corrects everyone else. So when he invited Bill Burr onto his podcast, Club Random, you'd think he'd have done the math. He did not. Because before they even got into anything of substance, Maher made a tactical error that would define the entire episode. He decided to compliment his own outfit. He pointed out that he was the well-dressed one, the sophisticated one, the adult in the room. He looked at Burr's casual setup, sneakers, a t-shirt, and decided that made him the winner. And Burr looked him up and down slowly, like a cop walking toward a car that had been swerving across 3 lanes at 2 in the morning.
Oh, I look good. That's the difference. Is that you were wearing
look good.
You're wearing
you don't
sneakers.
Throw that in my face.
You got a t-shirt on. Like I.
You look like a defendant. You look like you're trying to beat him drinking and driving.
You catch that? Maher walked into that one with his chin out, fully expecting agreement, and it only got worse for him because once Burr clocked the outfit, he could not let it go. He went after the shirt, then the brand name on the shirt, some expensive label designed to make a 60-something man look like he just rolled out of a downtown loft. And then, the part that genuinely broke Maher, the detail that turned the whole thing from a roast into an execution, the footwear.
Well,
like there's so much shit about you that's funny that you're not even trying to be funny. Your whole fucking outfit is hilarious.
I
don't know what it is. Yeah.
A shirt and pants is an outfit?
You're dressed like that, you're gonna sing that, what is that song? Splish Splash, I was taking a bath with your stupid little slippers that you're wearing.
Slippers?
Vado's shirt. You're not young. Put on a sweater for sakes.
Put on a sweater, why? But like.
And here's what made this whole thing lethal instead of just funny. Maher kept reaching for sophistication. He dropped Latin phrases. He used obscure vocabulary the way other people use a power tool to do work his actual point couldn't. He name-dropped architects, the kind of cultural references engineered to remind you that he summers in places you will never afford. And every single time he did it, Burr just stared at him like he'd ordered a salad in the wrong language. He wasn't impressed. He was bored. He treated Maher's entire intellectual persona like a magic trick performed by a guy who, in Burr's estimation, couldn't change the oil in his own car. Then came the moment that should honestly be taught in schools. After an hour of watching Maher perform brilliance, Burr delivered the single most efficient summary of the man's entire public image that anyone has ever attempted. No build-up, no cushion, just a clean surgical strike to the center of everything Maher had spent decades constructing.
Some Bill, most of the shit you say is not smart. It's just sort of obscure.
It's not obscure to a certain percentage of people.
I'm
not
your
some
altitude.
giant egghead. I'm just
I know you're not that smart.
I know. I'm not saying I am.
That's the thing about Burr. He's not trying to win the argument. He's trying to diagnose you. And he did it to a man on that man's own show with that man's own microphone while that man wore his stupid little slippers. Maher tried to laugh it off. What else can you do when you've spent 30 years convincing the world you're the smart one, and a guy from Boston calmly informs you that you're not actually smart, you're just obscure? There is no counter move. There's no comeback. He is just smiling, because smiling is the only dignity left available to you. Joe Rogan is going to show up on this video more than once, and there is a very simple reason for that. He's one of Burr's closest friends, and in Bill Burr's world, being a close friend means you receive exactly 0 protection. If anything, friendship makes it worse, because now he knows where all your soft spots are. The pandemic, it turned out, handed Burr the single greatest opportunity of their entire friendship. During the pandemic, the 2 comedians sat in a studio, no medical degrees between them, not even close. An American flag hanging on the wall behind them, cigars in hand, and Rogan leaning hard into the anti-mask, the government is creepy energy that a huge chunk of his audience absolutely loved. This was the easy lane. Most guests would have nodded along, banked the goodwill, and moved on. Burr is not most guests. He sat there and refused to pretend that 2 cigar-smoking podcasters had any business lecturing the entire planet on public health.
Shit, I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up better than the CDC.
But that was just the warm-up jab, because Rogan's whole argument rested on a certain posture, the unspoken idea that wearing a mask was somehow soft, somehow weak, somehow beneath a real man. So Burr decided to attack the posture directly, not the policy, the physique, the ego, the entire alpha male performance that Rogan had been running for years. He went straight for the body, the swagger, the tough guy image, and suggested that the real reason behind the whole stance had nothing to do with freedom and everything to do with vanity.
Thrown into the fucking ocean. We all wore masks. And then all of a sudden, people are fucking sitting there. Well, you don't have the body type for it, dude. Your fucking knuckles would scrape on the ground. Even with that extra 2 inches.
And then Rogan made the mistake, the one mistake you cannot make in a debate with Bill Burr. He admitted something true. He confessed that back at the very start of the pandemic, when everything was shutting down and people were stockpiling, he had been scared, genuinely deeply scared. And the instant those words left his mouth, you could practically see Burr's brain light up like a slot machine hitting 3 cherries. Because think about who Rogan is. This is a man with a basement full of elk meat, the single most prepared human being either of them knew, a guy who could survive a year off grid without breaking a sweat. And here he was, confessing he'd had a meltdown and then turning around to mock the people who were just trying to take basic precautions. Burr laid the psychology out cold and clinical, the panic, the shame about the panic, the lashing out at strangers that came afterward to cover for it. And then he ended the entire conversation with 4 words that took Rogan's own favorite insult and aimed it right back between his eyes.
I felt like my breath is my breath is coming short. I did. I had like psychosomatic
Now
issues
who's the bitch,
thinking about
Joe?
it.
Now
I got
who's
over
the
it though.
bitch?
I got over it.
Guy had a
Game over. Rogan laughed because there was genuinely nothing else left to do. He'd walked in as the fearless skeptic and walked out as a guy who'd had a panic attack while sitting on top of a year's supply of food. That's the Burr method in its purest, most refined form. He lets you talk. He gives you all the rope you want. He lets you build your whole tough guy castle, brick by brick, and then he calmly reaches down, pulls 1 block out of the very bottom, and watches the entire structure come down on your own head. And the genius of doing it to Rogan specifically is that Rogan's whole platform is built on never being wrong in front of his own audience. Millions of people tune in precisely because Rogan projects certainty. Burr, sitting right there as a guest, refused to grant him that certainty for even a second. He didn't yell, he didn't get political, he just kept gently, relentlessly pointing at the gap between what Rogan was saying and what Rogan had actually done. And because they're friends, Rogan couldn't get defensive or kick him off. He had to sit in his own studio and let his closest comedian buddy dismantle the persona in front of the entire internet. That's the trap of being roasted by a friend. There's no exit. You invited the assassin in yourself. This one is special because Burr didn't pick on a friend, a heckler, or a clueless interviewer. He picked on a dead tech god, a man canonized worldwide as a once-in-a-generation genius, mourned like a head of state, printed on the covers of books that sit on the shelves of every aspiring entrepreneur on Earth. And Burr decided to go after him on Conan, on national television, with the casual, easy confidence of a man who knew exactly how much trouble he was about to cause and had decided it was worth it. The premise was simple, and that's what made it devastating. Everyone calls Steve Jobs an inventor. Burr wanted to know, invented what exactly? Did the man personally sit down and build the iPhone with his own 2 hands? Was he back there in a workshop somewhere soldering circuit boards together like some kind of electrified Tesla, sparks flying, hunched over a workbench at 3 in the morning?
But did he? Did he sit down and I'm gonna invent the iPhone and just sat there soldering, possibly welding, right? Didn't he have a crew of guys helping him out?
Sure, maybe he did.
So why, when he went to those nerd fests, didn't he have
You can feel the audience squirm. This was a room full of people who had probably stood in line at some point for an iPhone, being told to their faces that their hero might have been less of a wizard and more of a very, very demanding boss. And Burr leaned all the way into that second idea, the notion that Jobs wasn't an inventor at all, but a guy who pointed at a room full of exhausted engineers and barked orders until they turned his demands into reality.
just kind of came in I want my whole music collection in that phone. Get on it! And then all these nameless, faceless guys made it happen.
Yeah.
And then they have the big nerd concert, and he goes out there by himself. No belt, sneakers.
Now, is Bill Burr a tech historian? Absolutely not, and he'd be the first to tell you that. Most comedians would workshop a Steve Jobs takedown for months in tiny clubs and still chicken out before saying it on TV. Burr did it live, completely off the cuff, and let Conan sit there and absorb the fallout for both of them. And what's wild is how little he cared about the timing. Jobs had been gone only a short while when bits like this were landing, and the cultural mourning was still fresh. The man's face was on magazine covers. There were candlelight vigils outside Apple stores. Saying anything less than reverent about him was practically a fireable offense in polite company. Burr looked at all of that, the grief, the mythology, the merchandise, and treated it as an invitation rather than a warning. That's the tell with him. The more untouchable a subject is, the more magnetic it becomes. He's not contrarian for attention. He genuinely seems to believe that the things we're forbidden from poking are exactly the things that most deserve a poke, and he's willing to be the one holding the stick. There's brave, and then there's walking onto Jimmy Fallon's couch, the friendliest, most aggressively harmless platform in all of late-night television, and launching headfirst into a rant about divorce, alimony, and gender economics that makes the studio audience laugh and gasp in the exact same breath. This is one of Burr's most infamous talk show moments, and the way he got there is half the fun. It actually started with sports. He brought up a boxer who had lost a serious chunk of his fortune in a divorce settlement, and he used that as a launchpad, a springboard straight into a sweeping theory about modern marriage that he was clearly visibly delighted to be sharing with a national audience. And you can watch Fallon doing the thing Fallon always does in these situations, laughing a little too hard, leaning back, trying desperately to keep the energy light and playful while his guest barrels at full speed directly toward the third rail.
Sugar Shea Mosley, one of the greatest boxers of all time, he's losing his championship belt in a divorce. Losing, yeah, it's like you're trying to break a man. Why does she want those? Right? They go with their shoes. You know?
What's truly remarkable about this isn't the content. Plenty of comedians do edgy relationship material. It's the commitment.
When you get a divorce, all of a sudden it costs like 50 grand a month to give a kid Fruit Loops. Right? You guys, I'm telling you, there is an epidemic of gold digging in this country, and it is just not being addressed on any.
A lesser comic would float the joke out there, carefully read the room's temperature, and quietly pull back the second it got chilly. Burr does the precise opposite. The instant he senses the discomfort rising, he leans in and pushes harder. Because for him, the discomfort is the entire point of the exercise. He is not there to be liked. He's not there to charm the room or sell merchandise. He's there to say the one thing everybody else is far too polite to say out loud, and then make you laugh at the sheer audacity of the fact that he said it. And here's the genuinely disrespectful part. It isn't even the material. The truly subversive move is the venue. Fallon's show is where celebrities go to play beer pong and do lip sync battles. It is meticulously engineered, from the lighting to the band, to be the safest possible space on television. Burr walked into that carefully manufactured environment and treated it exactly like an open mic in the back of a dingy bar at midnight, refusing to adjust his act by even a single inch for the sake of the brand. He took Fallon's polished little playground and made it host the most uncomfortable 2 minutes it had seen all week. Then he smiled and moved on like absolutely nothing had happened. Some of Burr's very best work happens when he isn't even the one doing the talking. He's just sitting there, quietly, waiting, like a trap that's already been carefully set and armed, just needing someone to step on it. And on one particular episode of Conan, a fellow guest walked right into the jaws of it without ever seeing it coming.
Just a new black. Yeah. Your character has a lot of tats.
Yeah.
Do you get those put on? You have a tat that says.
No. I have that's all my ink. I have this mic on, so.
Yeah, that's all right.
The setup was almost nothing. A small, ordinary throwaway moment. A guest, a jacket, a little bit of social friction. Leia Delaria turned to Burr for a hand with something, and when it didn't go quite as smoothly as she wanted, she snapped at him just slightly. A tiny flash of attitude, and in doing so, she unknowingly handed him the single most loaded piece of personal information imaginable. Burr did not let it slide. He never lets it slide. That's the whole thing about him. With perfect, merciless, practiced timing, he reached straight for the most sensitive thing he could possibly find and held it up for the audience like a gift he'd been saving.
It's all right.
Be a gentleman and help me out with my question.
Hey, Conan, can you believe that marriage didn't work out? Gee, I can't believe your relationships don't work out.
The room detonated because that's the core truth about Bill Burr. He treats absolutely everyone exactly the same. He does not care about your accolades. He doesn't care about your activism, your status, your story, your cause, or how the rest of the table is choosing to handle you. The instant you show even a flicker of attitude in his direction, you have officially volunteered yourself for the roast, and there are no takebacks and no appeals. Delaria snapped at the wrong man at the wrong moment in front of the wrong cameras, and Burr, who had been sitting there in total silence, simply walked over and collected the debt that was now owed. It's a short clip, but it's pure, undiluted Burr philosophy. He is not cruel for no reason. That's the part people miss. He's cruel strictly in response. He operates on a rigid, almost honorable code of comedic reciprocity. Be normal with me, and I will be perfectly normal right back with you. But come at me, even a little, even by accident, and I will reach directly into your biography and pull out the one single detail you would least like aired on national television. Conan, as always, just got to sit back behind the desk and enjoy the carnage that someone else's guest had triggered. And the speed is the part that should scare you. There was no wind-up, no rehearsal, no quiet moment where he decided to be mean. The jab arrived almost before the snap had finished. That kind of reflex can't be taught. It's the difference between a comedian who writes jokes and a comedian who is wired to find the soft spot in any sentence the instant it's spoken. Most people, if a guest snapped at them on live television, would freeze or laugh awkwardly or let it pass to keep the peace. Burr's instinct runs in the exact opposite direction. The friction doesn't make him retreat, it activates him. A flash of attitude from across the couch is, to him, the starting gun. Speaking of Conan, the host himself does not get to hide safely behind that desk either. In fact, one of the purest, most distilled examples of Burr's bone-deep instinct for disrespect is a tiny, almost accidental moment where he simply noticed something about Conan O'Brien's footwear and physically could not allow civilization to continue until he had addressed it. They were mid-conversation, podcast format, everything pleasant and relaxed. And then Burr's eyes drifted down toward Conan's feet, and they found an abomination. Beautiful, expensive, formal wingtip dress shoes paired with chunky athletic rubber soles glued to the bottom. A fashion crime so specific, so utterly baffling in its logic, that Burr interrupted the entire flow of the show to demand a full explanation on the spot.
Why do you have athletic soles on your wingtips? I just noticed.
You never
that.
know.
I just
These are
noticed
beautiful.
that.
These are beautiful.
You know?
Wingtip shoes.
I don't know what it is.
I'm going to take these off now.
To his enormous credit, Conan committed fully to the defense. He actually reached down and took the shoe off. He held it up to the audience like it was Exhibit A in a courtroom, trying to justify the rubber grip as some kind of brilliant practical innovation. This was a catastrophic mistake because all it did was hand Burr a visual aid. Now he had something to build on. Now he had a scenario to construct. What possible, conceivable situation, he wondered aloud, would ever require a man dressed in full formal attire to suddenly need athletic grade traction at a moment's notice?
These are beautiful wingtip shoes, and then at the bottom they just have a little, like a rubber grip.
Yeah, in case a pickup game of hoop. He just can take off his tie. All right.
Well, you never know. You never know what
You're
might
tall.
happen.
Someone would pick you on the team. All right.
This is the Burr escalation engine running on the smallest possible amount of fuel, a pair of shoes. That is genuinely all he was given, and from that one absurd observation, he constructs an entire imaginary universe, one where Conan, dressed to the absolute nines, gets unexpectedly pulled into a spontaneous game of pickup basketball and is suddenly deeply grateful for his grippy little soles. And then he caps the whole thing off with a jab about Conan's towering height that ties the entire bit together with a bow. There's no malice anywhere in it, just relentless, churning comedic momentum, living proof that Burr can find a full roast hiding inside literally anything, right down to a man's choice of soul. And Conan, the eternal good sport, played the willing victim and simply let him cook. Here's where Burr genuinely separates himself from basically every other comedian working today. Most comics protect the crowd. It's an unwritten rule of the entire art form. The crowd paid money to be there. The crowd is on your side. You might do a little crowd work, gently tease the one guy in the front row. Keep it warm and friendly and inclusive. Bill Burr looks out at a sold-out room of paying fans and sees a wall of targets standing between him and a good time. Take the legendary moment at the Royal Albert Hall in London. A massive, packed British audience feeling that very particular, very quiet sense of cultural superiority that British crowds sometimes feel while watching a loud American comic do his thing. Burr clocked that energy in the room immediately, the way a shark senses a single drop of blood, and he leaned right over the edge of the stage to inform the entire crowd of something deeply uncomfortable about themselves that they had absolutely no interest in hearing.
The show.
You know what I heard about you guys? Actually, by the way, I've been over here for a week, and as an American, I gotta say something. You guys are pretty fat, too.
Then there's the heckler. Although calling her a heckler is almost generous, she wasn't even really heckling. She just shouted something at the wrong volume at the wrong moment. A single over-enthusiastic outburst from somewhere in the dark of the room. For any other performer on earth, it's a throwaway second, a minor blip you ride right over. For Bill Burr, it's a full-time job that just opened up. He locked onto her voice, her timing, her complete lack of social awareness, and proceeded to spend the next several minutes building an enormous, elaborate comedic monument dedicated entirely to her one tiny mistake.
Oh, it's the fly here. You know what I mean? No offense, but there's no Eiffel Tower here. I think that's a little pricey. You're welcome!
And it isn't limited to stand-up crowds either. During one televised interview in front of a live studio audience, he noticed a single audience member completely glued to their phone for the entire duration of the segment. And rather than ignore it like a professional, like a guest who wants to be invited back, he narrated, turning the distracted texter into a live, breathing exhibit on the total impossibility of holding a modern human's attention for more than 9 seconds.
I love this dude texting for the entire interview. It's just trying to keep the attentions on millennials. It's like impossible. Look at him. He's already got the chains. He's probably got his own record label. He's like making deals as we speak. He's got championship rings on.
This is precisely what makes Burr so genuinely dangerous as a live performer. There is no safe seat anywhere in the building. Front row, back row, balcony, mezzanine. The British, the texters, the loud ones, the quiet ones, the ones who clap too hard, the ones who didn't clap at all. Everyone is fair game the second they give him even the smallest opening. He's not performing for the audience. He's performing at the audience, sometimes against the audience, and somehow they keep buying tickets and coming right back for more. Because deep down, in a place they'd never admit to, everybody secretly wants to find out what he'd say about them. Here it is, the one from the intro, the single moment widely crowned the greatest in podcast history, and the reason Joe Rogan reportedly never wore that particular hat in public again. It started innocently enough, the way these things always do. Burr had been eating elk that Rogan had gifted him, and Rogan, being Rogan, asked a deeply Rogan question about whether eating elk made Burr feel more aggressive. That question alone was almost enough to set him off. The pseudoscience of it, the earnest, wide-eyed belief that red meat from a specific animal could chemically transform a man into a warrior. But the elk wasn't the real target. The real target was sitting right there on top of Rogan's head. A little flat newsboy cap that Burr decided, live and in real time, made the most aggressive man he had ever met look like a Depression-era orphan hawking newspapers on a street corner. You already saw the opening shot in the intro. What you didn't see is how completely it landed and how thoroughly it refused to stop landing. Because after Burr compared 3 full decades of Rogan's tough guy existence to a man who'd finally earned the right to put on a silly little hat and relax, Rogan did something very telling. He took the hat off. He looked down at it in his own hands, and he surrendered completely on his own show.
He's like every guy I met in Boston fucking welded together. He's crazy.
The little rascal's hat will haunt me for the rest of my life.
No, and this is like killing me. No,
I'll never put this on.
No, Joe, you're crushing that. He's crushing that hat.
But Burr was not done, because Burr is never done. He doesn't stop when you're hurt. He stops when the room runs out of oxygen. The rest of the table smelled blood in the water, and the whole thing mutated into a full-blown 1920s newsboy skit. Comedians on their feet, shouting fake headlines. The entire room committing completely to the bit while Rogan sat there holding the murder weapon, which was, of course, his own hat.
We'll keep it on for when the papers come out in the morning. Extra, extra! Read all about it! Donald Trump wins in
Alaska. Chilkoot Charlie finally builds a fucking bed.
What elevates this from a great roast to the gold standard isn't the joke itself, it's the affection humming underneath it. Burr clearly adores Rogan. He says as much in the middle of the destruction, calls him every guy he ever met in Boston welded together into one man. And yet that love is expressed entirely, exclusively through public humiliation. That's a very specific and very male kind of friendship, the kind where the nicest thing one man can do for another is roast him so thoroughly, so memorably on a live stream watched by millions that the world will permanently associate his face with a hat for the rest of his natural life. Rogan took it like a champion. He genuinely had no other option, and the reason it became legend instead of just another funny clip comes down to the chemistry of that exact table on that exact night. Election results were rolling in, tensions everywhere were high, the whole country was bracing for something, and in the middle of all of that, here were these comedians choosing to spend a historic evening obliterating one of their own over headwear. It was the perfect release valve. Burr didn't plan it. You can't plan a moment like that. It happened because he is genetically incapable of seeing an easy target and walking past it, and Rogan, for all his alpha male armor, made the mistake of wearing the one accessory Burr's brain could not let live. The internet did the rest, and a hat became immortal. And this, right here, is the engine humming underneath every single moment on this entire list. Whether it's a billionaire tech icon, a podcasting alpha male, a smug late-night intellectual, a beloved talk show host's shoes, a sacred cultural belief, or just some guy in the third row checking his phone, Burr's entire act, his whole career is built on one simple, terrifying instinct. He walks straight up to the thing everyone has quietly agreed not to question, and he questions it, loudly, on camera, in front of as many people as possible, with a thick Boston accent and absolutely zero interest in your feelings about it. He has been called disrespectful for his entire career, and here's the honest truth, he absolutely is. Gloriously, deliberately, unapologetically disrespectful. But that disrespect is never random, and that's the part that keeps him on stages instead of in apology videos. It's aimed every single time, with real precision, at the exact spot where everybody else in the culture has politely agreed to look away. And it's exactly why, no matter who he happens to be sitting across from, you always find yourself leaning in just a little bit closer, because you know with total certainty that he is about to say the one thing nobody else in the room ever will.